Hello and welcome to the Game Lore Archives. I'm Dan.
No, you're not. Great start there.
Amazing.
I'm Dan, and this numpty's Joe.
Yeah, I know my name, I promise. In our last few episodes, we've been discussing how the world was created, how the first human creatures came to be, and the effects of the Mage Clan Wars. And we thought now would be a really good time to discuss the history behind some of the other races you find across Sanctuary, instead of using them like target practice like we do in every Diablo game. Now, this was by far our most popular Elder Scrolls episode. We did another races of Elder Scrolls, so please go and check that out because people seem to love that, and hopefully you guys will enjoy this one equally as much.
Yeah. So every enemy found across the Diablo series of the games are split into 5 categories. Animals,
which are also imaginatively referred to as beasts.
Humans, the undead, demons, and angels. And in today's episode, we will discuss a little about each of these categories, as well as looking a little bit more in depth at the more interesting examples of them. However, as I'm sure you can imagine, there is a massive number of enemies across 3 games, so we're only going to cover the most interesting examples. Otherwise, this episode will be endless. We also won't be talking about any angels today, as we'll be covering them in a future episode much further down the timeline.
So to begin with, we'll cover the animals and beasts of Sanctuary. These animals will hunt, breed and sleep and just do sort of the standard things that animals do. Today we'll be discussing the creatures outside the norm and discussing creatures that have either evolved past their basic instincts or have been tainted by some kind of demonic or magical influence.
So the first creature we'll be covering is the common cave bat.
Wait, a bat?
Yeah, a common cave bat.
I thought you said interesting animals?
Well, technically they used to be bats. However, they changed a long time ago in Sanctuary. You see, dark magic constantly seeps from a demon's flesh, corrupting pretty much everything nearby. And as many rituals and summonings were performed hidden away in caves, away from prying eyes, this magic eventually corrupted some of these bats into creatures known as bat demons. A group of mages realised what had happened, and at the same time realised that they could cast a spell to corrupt the bats quicker and start using them as servants and messengers. Their magic worked, and they created imp-like creatures called winged fiends. These small winged imps are fast and unnaturally intelligent.
Far too smart to be kept as servants for long.
And while the winged fiends acted as loyal slaves for a while, they silently plotted against their masters. They began to feed on their master's very essence, becoming stronger as their master weakened. And while the masters slept, they would fly to freedom and breed, and return before the master had realised they'd ever been gone. Eventually, when the mages realised what the winged fiends were doing and began to fight back, it was too late. The mages' power had already been drained almost completely, and the winged fiends' hidden children swarmed the mages until pretty much all of them had perished. Once free from their masters, they returned to the countryside, terrorising any traveller that got too close to their nests.
Who then began to call them demon bats once more.
Strangely, by the year 1285, the demon bats had vanished from the countryside, being replaced by Carrion Bats, whose numbers swelled after the Worldstone's destruction. It's unknown where the Carrion Bats came from and where the demon bats vanished to. The most likely reasons, however, is either the Carrion Bats were created as a byproduct of the Worldstone's destruction and became the demon bat's natural predator, hunting them to the point of extinction and stealing their nests of their own. The other option is the Worldstone's destruction somehow caused the demon bats to evolve into Carrion Bats unnaturally fast. The winged fiends are found in Diablo 1, demon bats in Diablo 2, and Carrion Bats in Diablo 3.
Now, next we'll discuss one of my favourite creatures found in Sanctuary, the Bogans. The Bogans are a tribal race of creatures found within the Blood Marsh. This swamp has been the Bogan's homeland long before humans settled in the area. The Bogan tribal structure is primitive at best, where the string lead and bully the smaller creatures into submission. Throughout the years, the race have begun to learn how to create primitive traps, weapons and buildings, which also have crude fortifications and watchtowers. They also have a religion based on the worship of a deity called the Wicker Man, who can be summoned using a secret ritual. Their society revolves around hunting for food, and legend has it that Bogans never used to be a threat, but as their traps and weapons have developed, their courage has grown, so now they'll attack anything that they can eat. The Tusk Bogans are called brutes and are leaders of the tribe who bully the smaller ones. The small children, called boggits, get the brunt of this and are picked on almost constantly.
And boggit is a pun from the name Hobbit from Lord of the Rings.
Nice. The Bogan's weapon of choice is mostly traps and the poison blow dart.
Now, of all the twisted creatures in Sanctuary, something that there's nothing more elusive or feared,
or even bizarre,
as the Infernal bovines. So when the Dark Wanderer walked away from Tristram after the initial attacks,
an event that we'll discuss in a future episode,
Diablo's evil seeped into the surrounding areas, summoning demons and raising the dead. On this occasion, something else happened which nobody expected. His evil seeped into the surrounding farms and granted cows sentience. Now, these cows were already half insane from the incessant prodding of farmers, being milked when they don't really want to be, and so all of a sudden they can think and talk, and so they took up arms against the townsfolk, because what else is a cow to do? They killed many farmers and then lay in wait behind a portal, waiting to inflict pain on the rest of the human race, waiting for an opportunity to attack. And eventually a hierarchy started to form, and a cow king was crowned in the year 1264. Now luckily for the townsfolk, the same group of heroes that stopped Diablo managed to kill the king and close the portal. Unfortunately, it didn't stay closed. In the year 1285, a new leader seemed to have been chosen.
And he's called the Lord of Bells.
I love these cows so much.
They're great.
And since this time, the rate of attacks have risen to an unprecedented level. Bipedal cows wielding weapons are emerging from mysterious orange portals. These attacks have gotten so bad that one farmer has even started calling it the Cowpocalypse. However, these people are not to be believed. Clearly, all of these people are insane. There is not a cow level in any Diablo game. That would just be ridiculous.
It's a stupid idea.
Stupid
idea. Now, on to more sensible things.
Yeah. The real
creatures. Deep in the jungles of Khazra, the Fetish race resides in small shamanistic tribes. These fetishes will attack passers-by with poison darts, magic and weapons as big as their body. The Fetish race is a bit of an enigma. We know they're a cannibalistic race who love to consume human flesh. However, everything else is a little less clear. For example, they live in very simplistic tribes, yet are actually a very intelligent race. Each tribe is led by a shaman who's chosen by being the most intelligent. These shamans can breathe fire, raise fallen fetishes from the dead.
And it appears that this magic can be done regardless of how long ago the fetish was killed, as some come back as bone fetishes if they were killed a long time before being revived. Bone fetishes are quite frail, but they're very fast and strong and strangely explode when killed.
The shaman will stand atop another's shoulders so that his appearance matches his higher rank. It is also unknown what the fetish's overall goal is. In the year 2064, they followed the forces of Hell. However, once Diablo was defeated, they joined forces with the Witch Doctors and now come to help them in battle when summoned, with seemingly no reason for this change of allegiance.
The final animal we're going to discuss today is the Lacuni,
otherwise known as the Panther Men or Saber Cats.
The Lacuni are a race of feline creatures and are unmatched in both intelligence among the different beasts of Sanctuary. Each of their hands and feet have 4 digits, and they can walk either bipedally or quadrupedally, usually using all 4s for speed and standing upright so they can use weapons more effectively. The Lacuni's true origin story is unknown. However, a single legend has survived through the ages, which is told amongst the Lacuni to this day. Legend says that their race's beginnings lie with the Ascari society. Long ago, an Amazon sought power and fame. So to achieve this, she struck a deal with one of the lesser evils to gain power and for her legacy to never be forgotten. The lesser evil granted her powers she desired, while turning her into a cat-like being, and made her legacy never die, as the Lacuni is still around to this day. We don't know how much truth is in this legend, but as I said, it's what the Lacuni themselves believe. The first time the humans met the Lacuni, they lived in the jungles of Kyrgyzstan and were a peaceful race, known for trading with nearby human settlements. They've then spread out to the nearby Kyrgyzstan desert and even to the Agnarok desert in the Western Kingdoms. Unfortunately, this peaceful nature has slowly been changed when the Dark Wanderer began to roam Sanctuary, tainting everything in his presence. When this happened, entire caravans of people started disappearing in the deserts thanks to the Lacuni. These attacks got so bad that the monks of Ivgorod attempted to purge the Anarok deserts of the Lacuni completely.
And absolutely failed.
Lacuni society is patriarchal, meaning it is led by males.
Which is the opposite to the Ascari society, where they supposedly came from.
The males of the species are more physically powerful and active leaders of the tribe. The females are much more agile and are the huntresses.
Very similar to how a pack of lions functions.
While hunting, the females will work together by surrounding their prey and attacking with a mixture of melee weapons, javelins, and throwing poisonous potions. However, they will revert to teeth and claws if backed into a corner.
And that's where we're going to leave the animal category and proceed with the various human factions we can fight. Now, there are quite a lot of factions that we see and won't actually discuss today.
And that's even if they're interesting, much like the Templars or members of the Zacharoon Temple, as we'll cover them in their own episode.
So if we don't cover your favourite faction, of course hit the subscribe button, and then as soon as it comes out, you'll know and you can watch it.
So the first group we're going to cover is the Dark Coven, obviously prevalent in Diablo 3. This coven was filled with dark cultists trained in demon summoning rituals. The group is dedicated to Belial, Lord of Lies. The coven itself was originally founded by an unknown powerful witch.
And people think this is likely to be a woman called Adria.
The group followed this witch until she decided to leave, which caused a huge schism within the group. A witch called Magda, jealous of the founder's powers, prayed to Belial to increase her own, and with this new magic and his help, she took control of the cultists and moved them from the city of Westmarch to Chaldean. Magda herself is a mystery, and nothing is really known about her and her past. Dark cultists make up the bulk of this coven. They attack their enemies with sacrificial daggers, killing them in the name of Belial. Dark vessels make up the other half of the cult. These are members that have been trained to summon demons and open themselves up to possession. This summoning ritual takes time to perform, leaving an opening where dark vessels are vulnerable. However, if this opportunity is missed, a demon will take their place.
Now, a few episodes ago, we discussed the barbarian race and how after the Worldstone was destroyed, some tribes went feral. Well, the majority of these tribes flocked to their once great city, Secheron. These tribes eventually merged and were labelled the Unclean by the rest of the surviving barbarian tribes. The Unclean were driven mad with rage and shame over the loss of the Worldstone and now revel in violence, even to the point of cannibalism. The name the Unclean was coined as their culture was so disgusting to other barbarian tribes by doing things like painting their face with blood and using human ears and tongues as jewellery. The Unclean's hunting grounds are the areas surrounding the Secheron ruins, looking for anything to kill, and will hunt using the war dogs that they breed. Regardless of how unsavory they are deadly, and their skill in killing has been perfected so much that even demons avoid the ruins.
The next group that we'll discuss is the Iron Wolves, and they're the only group we're going to discuss today who aren't enemies. However, their story is heavily intertwined with the Imperial Guard, who are enemies that you'll face in Diablo 3. The Iron Wolves were a renowned mercenary company found around the Eastern Empire. Their fame stems from their loyalty to their employer. Mercenaries are notorious for betraying their employer if anyone offers them a higher price. However, the Iron Wolves value loyalty and duty above all else, and will not betray their employer at any cost. Each and every Iron Wolf soldier is a veteran in combat when they join the Order, and many different combat styles can be found, from swordsmen to spellcasters. The Iron Wolves have appeared in both Diablo 2 and 3, both times helping the character out. In Diablo 2,
which is in the year 1264,
they were hired to help purge the demons encroaching on the city of Khazra from the surrounding forests. Protecting the city was a long, hard battle, but eventually was won when a group of adventurers,
the same group who would eventually defeat Diablo,
managed to reinforce the town's magical protection. Thankful for this step, the Iron Wolves agreed to help the group defeat Diablo. However, this demon attack would eventually lead to Khazra's downfall, which made the Emperor change the Empire's capital city to Chaldean. And the Emperor, Hakam II, needed to move to this new capital city, so asked the Iron Wolves for protection during the journey. And it was the first time in Sanctuary's history that a mercenary company had ever protected a ruler. Unfortunately, Belial, Lord of Lies, influenced Hakam to slowly replace the Iron Wolves with the Imperial Guard.
The Imperial Guard not only protected the Emperor, but also patrolled the city and all surrounding areas. They only answered to the Emperor directly and were permitted to use deadly force with anyone they saw fit. How noble these guards were originally, we may not know, as they were swiftly killed in secret, being replaced by Belial's deceiver demons. Once the guards were gone, Belial then took Hakan's place completely, ruling over the Eastern Empire. These deceiver demons, posing as Imperial Guard, prevented all refugees from entering the city and began stealing civilian supplies and killing innocent people.
The true Iron Wolves saw that the Imperial Guard were becoming evil, so actually took it upon themselves to protect the citizens of Chaldean for free.
This in turn caused the Imperial Guard to push the Iron Wolves from the city into the surrounding areas. These events swiftly led the citizens to look favourably to the Iron Wolves while regarding the Imperial Guard with fear and suspicion, but unsure of what was happening or why. The deceiver demons only revealed themselves when the Nephilim began to attack Belial openly in Diablo 3.
And with animals and humans being discussed, that concludes all natural enemies that we fight.
Well, other than the deceiver demons, of course.
Yeah. But they are a good segue, which means it's time to look into the more supernatural enemies, which means we should start with the Undead. Now, the Undead are scattered across all of Sanctuary. They are neither demons or human, alive or dead, and kind of sit somewhere between the two. The Undead can be reanimated in a few different ways, and the first method is using a type of magic called necromancy. Necromancy is most notably used by demons and an order called the Priests of Rathma. The only other race of people outside of the Priests of Rathma able to summon the Undead are the witch doctors of the Unburied tribes. The reason for this is that they can commune with spirits and even walk the unformed lands where spirits reside. It's speculated that the unformed land is the same realm of existence that the Priests of Rathma draw their powers from, but they call it the land of the dead. The Undead also rise naturally in the presence of demons without them using any magics. The Undead that raise in this manner are classed as Mephisto's minions, as they are filled with hatred for everything living. The most recent epidemic was in the year 1285, when the fallen star rose thousands from their graves. The strange thing is that this star was angelic in nature and not demonic, So maybe it's not just demons that can reanimate the dead, but things not of Sanctuary.
Well, bear this in mind because there's an interesting point about this in the Sin Wars books. One of the characters is returned from the dead by an angel.
Oh.
Specifically, so it is actually confirmed in canon that angels can do it too.
There we go then. There's the answer to that question.
Yeah. Although there are a few different undead creatures, the majority is split into one of two categories. You get zombies and you get skeletons. Now, zombies are worm-ridden corpses that reek of death. They're the lowest rank of undead and they can be found throughout pretty much all of Sanctuary. Although they are more common in the Western Kingdoms and are always swarming crypts and graves. The zombies that are risen through demonic presence were not kind people in life and consist of murderers, rapists and other such criminals. Undead summoned by necromancers, though, can be anyone of any persuasion. So
just who the necromancer
just
chooses.
Bob the baker from down the road.
Want some bread?
Raise him.
Some bread.
That's it. However, the undead that the demons summon, their hatred and anger is then amplified, mixing with an insatiable hunger for flesh. Zombies are slow-moving. However, possess infinite supplies of stamina and will follow their targets with endless determination. Fortunately, their hunger and anger rule their mind, leaving little room for other thoughts, meaning they can be easily outmaneuvered and outsmarted. The real issues begin when they attack in numbers, where they can easily overwhelm the unprepared by sheer numbers alone. When the zombies then attack a civilian, their virus gets passed to them, and then when they die, they soon rise again.
The other half of the undead army are the skeletons. Originally they were a rare sight, however became much more common in the last few days of King Leoric's rulership, when many began to rise from the grave due to Diablo's presence. Unlike zombies, skeletons are fast, skilled with a weapon, and very intelligent, however are often more fragile than their slower counterparts. Skeletons were all warriors in life who died in combat. The common misconception is that each skeleton is an individual fallen warrior. However, this is actually rarely the case, and they're kind of made up from multiple bones scattered across the area where they're summoned from, which gives them the flexibility to form and reform at will, while costing less essence to cast, because there's many bones scattered around, whereas one person will take a long time to cast.
So you just kind of gather in bits and bobs.
Yeah. However, as bones are still required, there are always more skeletons found in graves and crypts, as the bones are in abundance, as well as old burial grounds and things like that. A skeleton's skill and intelligence varies depending on the spell used to summon it and how much magic was used to create it, as well as the skill of the individual summoner. Meaning that theoretically, a person could summon an army of thousands of skeletons, but they wouldn't have that much skill, that much strength, and they wouldn't be that intelligent. Whereas another summoner could use the same amount of mana to summon one skeleton with immense powers and health and skills. However strong or smart the specific skeleton is, however, the one thing they can all do is pursue a given target until it's dead or their master tells them otherwise.
Obviously, there are many other undead creatures. However, the majority follow one of those two paths, with slight tweaks along the way. The only other undead that we really want to mention at this stage are the Unburied, as their story is actually pretty cool. The Unburied are colossal constructs made up of pretty much everything nearby. They're horrific amalgamations of human body parts that haven't been buried properly, slapped together using nearby dirt, and infused with any lost souls nearby. This horrible mixture of rotting cadavers is said to feed on the suffering of humans, a goal it pursues from the very second it's born. What's left of their skin is sickly grey, spotted with anything found nearby, like
heads, animal fangs, rocks, other limbs.
So not even necessarily body parts,
no,
just stuff hanging
literally
around.
Everything nearby.
Nice. Their hands don't have fingers, and instead rocks from the surroundings are impaled straight onto their arms, which they use as huge maces.
And that leaves us with demons, as we're not discussing angels. And again, we will only discuss the demons that are linked directly to Sanctuary itself. The first demon we need to discuss was born during the Darkening of Tristram in the year 1258. The Knights of Tristram,
who were the knights in service to King Leoric,
returned from a war with Westmarch, their neighbouring province. On their return, they immediately could see that King Leoric had fallen to insanity, and so had to save their once beloved king to save the townspeople. Leoric cursed these knights for their betrayal and condemned them to infernal damnation. Their curse spread quickly through the knights' ranks, turning them into Hell Knights, who now roam the depths of the Tristal Cathedral, attacking anyone who can see them, and they were one of the hardest enemies in Diablo 1.
A similar thing happened to many members of the Sisterhood of the Sightless Eye less than a year after Diablo was defeated in Tristram. In the year 1264, the Sisterhood were corrupted by the prime evil Andariel and became corrupted rogues, who then patrolled the areas near the rogue encampment, attacking their old sisters. The corrupted rogues continue to wield the same weapons as they did before they were corrupted, attacking anyone they believe posing a threat to Andariel and Diablo. Luckily, they seem to have forgotten any weapon training they had in life, otherwise they would be a much deadlier foe. When they're killed, their spirits are freed from torment and can be seen rising upwards free.
Okay. Last demon. Across the Western Kingdoms, no enemy is more feared than the Khazra.
Or also known as the Goat Men.
The Khazra are a race of mutated humans changed into bipedal goats. The Khazra follow orders from their demonic master and commonly invade towns across Sanctuary and attack anyone unlucky enough to cross their paths. The Khazra are skilled with almost every weapon and are a very cunning race, working together in organised clans to accomplish anything their master needs. The strength of an individual is incredible, and the most powerful clans even guard the lairs of Hell's more powerful demons. As well as incredible strength, they also have an agility to match and are renowned for their skilled archers. For a long time, the Khazra's origins were a mystery. However, they have recently been discovered in the form of ancient carvings. The Khazra started deep in the Turajan jungles as members of the Unburied tribes. At some point, 5 clans left the jungle for higher ground and began to develop differently to who they left behind. They were peaceful people. When they left the Unburied, they were hunter-gatherers, but they swiftly developed into a farming culture. They lived peacefully and in harmony until their lives were disrupted during the Mage Clan Wars. The Vizjiri clan decided that to win the war, they would construct an army using demon-possessed victims to bolster their own forces. When they learned of a peaceful little farming village, they knew that they had found those victims. They made contact, and within 1 decade, the farmers had begun to transform into a version of the Khazra.
But this version was wild and unable to think at all.
So because of this, the remaining farmers started a war with Vizjiri, knowing they were responsible. This war lasted years, slowly destroying both the farmers' culture and minds, until they were more like an army than a village. To win the war, they kidnapped an enemy sorcerer and forced him to help them drive the Vizjiri out of their land once and for all. They also asked the rest of the clan to be turned into the Khazra, but with the ability to think. The spell worked, but with a price. It bound them to a demon called Zagral, who drove the Khazari to raid villages and caravans, constantly searching for other things to kill to sate their newfound bloodlust. The other remaining Unburied tribes saw what happened and coined the name Khazra,
which means demon or devil in their native tongue.
And after years of the Khazra terrorising the countryside, a band of witch doctors raided the Khazra's homeland and managed to kill Zagral. His death severed his tie to the Khazra, giving them the freedom and significantly weakening them. However, they'd attacked humanity and been at war for far too long, so continued to wage war against humans, even without a demon compelling them to do so.
And that's everything we have on the other races you can find and fight across Sanctuary. We hope you enjoyed the episode.
And of course, we'll be back next week.
Yeah, so subscribe.
Bye.